Alrighty, gamers, welcome to the dojo. Strap in, because we got a long one. How's it going? So, I recently just got back a couple days ago from a near 3-week trip out to New York, and then Chicago, and then back to New York, most of which was for work and a little bit of visiting family. We opened up a new office in New York, so I got to check that out, handle some client stuff while I was out there. And I came back with quite a few things in the world of TCG, and more specifically, Magic the Gathering, as you can see, as it doesn't even fit on frame here. So I want to talk about it and showcase the haul as we do. And I imagine at this point, I haven't really, even at this stage, uploaded any TCG content at the making of this video. But here's the thing. Before I had went on this trip, and this kind of stems back from when I went to SoCal Gaming Expo, I had seen the Final Fantasy collab that had came out that weekend, and I got a couple booster packs while I was out there just to kind of rip for the fun of it and, you know, have that fun experience of like opening a pack like I did when I was younger. And more specifically, when I was younger, I played MTG. MTG was one of the first trading card games outside of like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh that I really got into, played, and collected. And I just had so much fun doing that when I was younger. And as you do, as you get older, you move on to different things. I got into like computer games and World of Warcraft and Magic the Gathering kind of became an afterthought for many years. I saw a lot of the collabs they were doing. And I remember when I caught wind of the Final Fantasy collab, I was like, oh, that would be a really interesting one to see. And I bet it will do well. Spoiler alert, it did like crazy amounts of money. Super successful. I think their most successful set, if I'm not mistaken, made like $200 million in a day, which is just ridiculous. And I'm now contributing to all of that. So nonetheless, I have been collecting a bit of MTG, since I've left, and on this trip I had the opportunity to check out a lot of the local stores, both in New York and Chicago, and just kind of see the local scene and get, more absorbed into this rabbit hole that is Magic the Gathering. So I wanted to go through a lot of what I got. I do have some sealed product here that I'm going to be opening up today, but in different videos rather than making you sit here for hours on end, because I have a lot to open. I have a lot that I've been waiting to open, trying to be somewhat patient and bring some stuff back that I can crack here on video. I filmed a lot of the initial unboxings back in New York and Chicago from my hotel room or my family's place. Obviously didn't have the whole fancy studio set up here, so yeah, it was just me more being impatient and wanting to be able to crack it, and if I had any cool pools, be able to share that experience. So if you're in the MTG/TCG space, you know all about this. And I want to start off with a disclaimer that you're going to see some booster boxes, you're going to see some stuff here, and a lot of pack rips and stuff like that, and cards I just gathered over this trip. But I understand. I know the common saying in like collecting or you're playing, eventually it's better off to buy singles, because at a certain point, if you don't know or not familiar with the space, things like these, the Final Fantasy collector booster boxes, are at an all-time high right now, and a crazy amount. I've seen them go as high as $2,000. Thankfully, it's kind of regulated downwards to around like $1,200 to $1,500, depending on the market. But still, these are crazy overpriced in the third-party markets right now for what they actually retail for. One, I had the opportunity to get them at a better price, which we'll talk about in a second, but nonetheless, these are still very much a gamble. So I have fun with it. I am fortunate enough to be able to get my hands on some of these and throw money at it, but at the same time, I understand that at a certain aspect, you're better off buying singles, of which I did, and we'll talk a lot about that. Not to mention these collector booster boxes I picked up were all from local game stores, so in terms of supporting the small businesses, it's all kind of full circle in a way. But let's talk about everything we have sitting here, because there's quite a bit. Okay, as I kind of clean off the space here, obviously we have a lot of Final Fantasy booster boxes, which we're 100% going to talk about and talk a little bit about the pools that I got, because these are all opened at this point. I had one sealed on my way back that I was going to keep sealed and opened when I got home, and I got impatient and really wanted to see what was in those packs. So I ended up ripping all of them before I even got back. We have a couple other things here. We have some set booster boxes. We have, this is Neon Dynasty Kamigawa set. This is a set that I've been super interested in. I love the art. I know it's like very like cyberpunk meets, Japan. I love all like the samurais and stuff like that in the set, just the art in general. So I got this purely for the love of the game in the set here. This is a set I eventually want to collect, but I have enough of a rabbit hole to go down with all these other sets as is. And the Kamigawa sets in general are a lot of when I got started in Magic the Gathering. That's what the popular sets were, like Betrayers of Kamigawa, Saviors of Kamigawa, things like that. So it was cool to get a Neon Dynasty set to open, and I opened all those boosters. Nothing crazy there. We got like that set in general doesn't have anything too heavy outside, I think, like the special lands. We got a Final Fantasy gift bundle, which we'll talk a little bit about, but I got that from a store out in Chicago at a very good rate, because there was always like being either like sold heavily or hard to find. We got a Lord of the Rings booster set. This is the first booster set box I got to open for Lord of the Rings, another one of the sets I've been collecting for lately. This one was just a random TCG pickup. This is NBA Hoops by Panini. I believe it's officially licensed for the NBA or something to that effect. This is the 2024-2025 NBA Trading Card Series. I got this because when I was younger, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, Magic, basketball cards was the other big thing I collected, and I highly regret not keeping that collection because I had some sick cards that I have no idea. I'm sure got like tossed out in the moves. So I just opened this for the fun of it. I love basketball, love the NBA, so like I wanted to kind of just see what I got in terms of hits. Nothing too crazy here. We got a couple rookie cards and stuff like that, but we didn't get any of the autographed cards, which is crazy because it's like an average of one per box, and we just got completely hosed in that aspect. But yeah, ultimately this was just like for the fun of it. Had fun kind of just opening this up and seeing what I can grab. I do want to get like older sets because like this is like current 2024 through 2025, but maybe it's something that we'll dive into later on, but don't want to split interest too much because this is already a crazy hobby as is. We got some basic like pre-con commander decks. So I got the Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth, specifically the Sauron deck here. So nothing crazy. Probably not going to open this up necessarily, but it is what it is. It's a pre-constructed commander deck. If you're looking just to get like an easy way to get started and playing, I never really played like EDH or commander style back in the day, so learning this and learning the new format has been fun. So yeah, these commander decks are a pretty cool way to kind of get started, and just like the collector in me thinks it's cool to have like the sets of commander decks. So we have that. Set that aside. What else did we grab here? We also got, as you can see here, this just came in the mail the other day, actually, the Edge of Eternities. This is kind of like the starter bundle or the kind of intro bundle. This is the brand new set that just came out. It was pre-release weekend as I'm filming this. So, yeah, all new. Really excited to kind of tear into that separately. Also sealed, as you can see here, we had so much luck with the initial Lord of the Rings booster box. I decided to pick one more just for the fun of it. I could not get my hands or find any collector booster boxes, but we're probably going to open one more here for the video, and we have that. And then we have a couple other boxes here on the side. We have Innistrad Remastered Collector's Booster Box, sealed. This one I'll be opening for sure. And then Assassin's Creed Collector Box, sealed. I know the set, this was a collaboration with Ubisoft. Again, another gaming collab that I was like really interested in. I don't know too much about the collector booster boxes and the heavy hits here, but I wanted to just kind of get one to see what we can pull. And then, last but not least, we have the gift bundle here from Lord of the Rings as well. And this is a harder one to get hands on too, so I was really fortunate to find this. You get a collector booster pack in this, and we're definitely going to be opening this as well. And then, as you do on trips like these, anytime I had opportunities to stop by these local stores, if I wasn't getting anything crazy, I'd get a pack or two, as you can see. And because I was traveling, I actually kept the packs, and some of them look sealed, but they're all actually open here. And I did that just because I like to keep a pack from the first, if it's like the first time I'm buying into a set. So like first time I bought MH3 or Modern Horizons, Duskmourn, I like to keep the pack just for like collector's purposes, but also because I was traveling, it just made it easier to keep things like this so that I could have all the cards together until I got back and could actually sort through them. Now, before I get into some of these individual boxes, talk a little bit about the hits and just some of the stories behind them, I want to kind of shout out a lot of the stores that I got to check out while I was in the both New York area as well as the Chicago area, because I got to check out a lot of variety of stores and, kind of the bigger, not necessarily chains, but the more well-known ones, as well as the more kind of, not necessarily mom and pop, but just maybe smaller card stores in the area. So, starting with New York, because that's where I first went, and that was the main purpose of the trip. New York has such a diverse kind of scene because obviously you have Manhattan, the main like area in borough, which is very popular, and that's like very much in the city. And with that, it also introduces just higher prices because they probably have higher rent and limited space because you're in the city. And again, the more space, the more rent. And for something like a TCG where you need space and storage and bulk, I can understand why a lot of the more appealing stores and stuff like that are kind of outside of the Manhattan area. But within Manhattan, a store that I frequented pretty often because I was just in the area a lot and would stop by to see their inventory and stock was Monacy Comics. It was one that was recommended. So they're a comic store, but they have all sorts of sports cards, Pokemon, all sorts of TCG material and memorabilia. And obviously that includes Magic. And they had a lot of stuff across their store. So I actually bought a lot of singles there because not too many places in Manhattan like store a lot of singles, but Monacy Comics was definitely one of them. So got a couple singles from them. I ended up also from them, that's where I ended up picking up the Assassin's Creed collector box, as well as the NBA hoops cards and some stuff like that. So Monacy Comics, definitely recommend checking it out if you're in the Manhattan area. A couple of the other stores I went to in New York, Bifrost Games was another one I finally got to check out. The first couple times I missed it because it was closing, but finally got to check out a little bit before I left. And while their selection wasn't as, like their stock wasn't as heavy, and again, they might have just been cleared out, they also sold singles, and I've only saw great things about the reviews and the overall TCG space. They had a lot of like area for play and stuff like that. But got a couple of singles from them. And then I think I got one of the booster boxes, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was the Kamigawa booster box that I ended up picking up from Bifrost Games. So definitely recommend checking that out as well if you're in the area. And then a couple of the other stores, there's a couple other comic stores that ended up being just completely sold out of MTG. I forget the other one specifically, but kind of near the Times Square area. They just had nothing in relation to like Final Fantasy or singles. They were just completely sold out. And I was also kind of going around that time where obviously this set was at its kind of peak. But with that, at Monacy Comics, it was also where I got my first collector's booster box, namely the Japanese booster box. So the Japanese booster box goes for slightly cheaper than the American one, anywhere from like $600 to $700, and I just got it for right around $700. So it was my first experience cracking a collector's booster. And we're going to talk a little bit about all the boosters and some of the hits here. But yeah, a lot of this I got at Monacy Comics. Beyond that, going outside the Manhattan area, Brooklyn had a lot of great stores. We ended up going to a couple different areas. I got to go to Game Storia in Astoria. Yeah, so clever play on name there. But that always came highly recommended. They had a ton of singles. They had a great space. They had a ton of stock and inventory across the board. And all pun intended, they had like board games and stuff like that. But in terms of MTG, really great selection. It was definitely a little bit further out. Like I went to Astoria specifically for that store. But if you happen to be in the area or willing to travel, definitely worth checking out. Other stores that I got to check out in the area were, I went to a store in Flushing, and the name escapes me, but it was the first card shop I got to go to outside of Manhattan. They had great prices. They had the booster box I got for Lord of the Rings, was where I picked that up, and they had a lot of singles, and they had a very like efficient system to kind of figure out your singles, and the staff was kind of on top of things. So I'll recommend that store, or find the link and make sure to throw it up. Outside of that, we went to some other stores in the Brooklyn area. We went to Brooklyn Wasteland Games. This is one that just kind of popped up in the radius when we were handling some other stuff in the weekend that we were out there. So got to check that out. It was a kind of small shop, almost like in I don't want to say it was their Chinatown, but like where the Asian markets and stuff like that were. We got to go into this card shop. It was full because it was like a commander night, but they had a ton of inventory. That's where I ended up getting a couple of singles as well as some cool items like the Lord of the Rings gift bundle, as well as this playmat, which I'm going to have to bust open, that I definitely, in all transparency, probably paid up on. But this is the Square Enix Final Fantasy 7 collab. This is like the Memories of Nibelheim kind of popular image with Tifa there sitting on top of the windmill. Not the windmill, but yeah, kind of like the windmill. Yeah, this thing should retail for like $20-$40 normally, but it was just so popular because it came out officially from Square Enix in Japan, and the resale value on this is crazy, but I had to have it, so here we are. But Brooklyn Wasteland Games, the store owner was there, super nice, great guy. He kind of gave me, the rundown on the store. He gave me some discounts on some of the stuff and really kind of just hooked it up and, talked a little bit about like their Edge of Eternity's release that was coming up. I personally had a great time there. I saw their Yelp reviews weren't like the highest, and they had some feedback. In my personal experience, I had a good time. Obviously, as a one-off visit, I was a buyer. I was not somebody who's participating in all the events, but Brooklyn Wasteland Games, I personally would recommend it. Speaking as a person who's talking about like going for the notion of like buying singles, packs, what have you, I can't speak to the experience of like playing there and how all that goes. And then I think outside of the Flushing and Brooklyn stores, there was one more store that I ended up in Brooklyn that, looking back, was one of the better stores and was just kind of like a hidden gem, in my opinion. I'll have to figure out the name specifically, but it just so happened to be right next to the station I was at anyway before going to Brooklyn Wasteland Games. That's where I ended up getting Innistrad Remastered. I got a couple singles from them. I got some packs from them. And I wish I got more because I think their prices were very fair. They had a great selection, great staff, and just a very like chill vibe for the space that they had. But really, really great selection. Like they had old school Magic stuff, some like legacy stuff, and there's a lot of the more modern sets as well. Alrighty. But that all said, that then takes my trip over to Chicago. When I went to Chicago, and Chicago is probably where we went a bit crazy in terms of singles and some box sets, because that is where I got the bulk of my Final Fantasy collector boxes. So let's talk a little bit about that. Okay, so while I was out in Chicago, we picked up not one, not two, not three, but 4 collector boosters, all of which have been opened. Actually, this one's empty because I put the cards in like something else to store them. This is, again, crazy, ridiculous. This was straight gambling. A funny story about this is I got this at a store by the name of, I believe, Chicago Gameland, but more specifically, I believe they call it Dice Dojo, or at least like it's either known as Chicago Gameland or Dice Dojo. It has like not 2 names, or kind of like 2 names. But anyway, a very well-known store. It was very highly recommended when I looked on Reddit, Yelp, so on, and for great reasons. They have a ton of TCG. They have Warhammer. They have just so many board games. Like, if I lived in that area of Chicago, I can see why it would be a store that a lot of people frequent and a great place to play and just great community and staff overall. They had these booster boxes, collector booster boxes in particular, at just around 900, maybe like 925, obviously, like with tax and all that. Still up there. Crazy amount of money to spend on something like this. But I've seen these constantly throughout my trip going for $1,200, $1,300, $1,500. And at that price point, very crazy. Like when I saw it here for around 900, I wanted to jump at the opportunity to buy one. The first one I got, I came in on like a Friday and they were like saying like, oh, like the staff was being like funny about it because they're saying like we can't even like condone you buying this because like even as a seller, like these things are a gamble and you're much better off like buying singles or like as a joke like letting your money in fire. And again, I get it, and I totally got their sentiment there, but like I really, really wanted to crack open a collector's box experience. I've cracked packs before, but never a full-on box, and I just thought it'd be a really fun experience. And I was willing to do so, and bought one box the first night, and then came back later in the weekend. And the other thing is they had a very ample supply of collector's boxes. I guess like obviously they weren't moving, whether that's because of the price or what have you. And I was actually kind of worried that like buying these in this amount, like they would think like I was a scalper or something. Like I offered to literally open them on the spot, like at the store, but they were super nice. And obviously at the end of the day, like I said, buying these from a local store and supporting a game store in that aspect, at the end of the day, I think that they're still making a profit on it in terms of margin. They could be making a much heavier margin, much more profit on this, and I think I really respected that. Obviously, they still want to make it obtainable in some way or shape or form to the community, to collectors, so on and so forth. So, shout out to Dice Dojo, by far my favorite store that I got to go to just for a myriad of reasons. They also had a really great single system. The Chicago stores all kind of use that TCG backend for their single system, so you can go to a laptop that they had in store, or you can use your phone to browse which singles they had. So, yeah. This was like the really big store in Chicago that I frequented and went to literally 3 days in a row. Now, some of you may be wondering, what are some of the hits that we got from these? And there's a lot of cards still in here that I need to sift through. I did kind of take note of the major hits that we got from this. First box, we actually did pretty decent. If I do initial value, we probably came, if not close to even, maybe even a little bit more profit if you're just looking from a value perspective, from like a content perspective. But overall, some of the bigger hits that we got here in all my collector boxes. First and foremost, this was the first box I ever opened. This was a Sephiroth Surge Foil in Japanese. So this was a pretty big hit, and for my first collector's box, I was super stoked to get this in a Surge Foil. So we have that. We then got Terra, Herald of Hope, and the funny thing about this is, this came, I remember, in the first collector booster box that I got from Dice Dojo, and when I was going there originally, I didn't know they even had all these collector's boxes. So we were at a dinner Friday night with the family, and we were going home. We had to take 2 cars, and the shop was like 10 minutes from where we're at, so I asked if we can just kind of stop by. Prior to that, I was already on my phone looking up at their singles, and I got a bunch of singles, like 13 cards that I wanted, and one of them was Terra. And notably, it was, I want to say it was a foil. It might have actually been a Surge Foil, to be honest. It was probably Surge Foil, given the price on it. But I had added it to my cart, but by the time I got there, I didn't know you can pre-check out. It was already sold. Like, somebody literally bought it as I was going into the store. So that was a bummer, because I want all of these in the Surge Foil treatment for the collection. But I ended up pulling it when I bought the first box. So while it doesn't fully justify the cost of this box, it was meant to be in that sense. Lost out on the single, but got it in the box. We also got Yuna Grand Summoner Surge Foil. This I did buy as a single, so this was one of the heavier singles for sure. Yuna in general is one of the heavier cards, so yeah, the Surge Foil treatment is a hefty one. We pulled a Tifa Lockhart, the best one here in Surge Foil. So got this, super stoked to have pulled that in the pack. This one, admittedly, I did buy. This is one of the first singles I bought in Chicago. This was another store, and I apologize, the name is escaping me right now, but it was a store that was much closer to me, and I went to two times I was there in Chicago. Really great store, really great staff, really great selection. They also had a great singles selection, and it was the first kind of like TCG backend where you can kind of look it up on the computer that I've seen or you got to experience in a card shop, so that was super cool. Made the buying experience pretty seamless. But yeah, I got this Tifa Surge Foil from them as a single. And keep in mind, I was buying singles before I got all of these. So the part of the, not problem, but thing was that I knew which singles I needed for my collection, so I was just buying them as I found them at the local card shops, not knowing that I was going to crack open, obviously, all of these booster boxes.
Here we are.
We got a Ristic Study Stay With Me pool. That was really cool to get. And then we got Stola Knights Blessed, as I drop it there, thankfully for the protector. But this is just foil, not a Surge Foil, which we really wanted. The Surge Foil hit on this is the craziest card. Outside of the Chocobos, I believe this is one of the top value cards right now, outside of the serialized stuff. So yeah, those are kind of the heavy hitters that we got from the box. A couple others. I ended up buying this Ultra Pro binder. I think it's perfect for travel and trade and stuff like that. And this is where I end up putting a lot of the other hits that we pulled from some of these collector boxes. So as you see, we did pull a Sephiroth in an English edition, but non-foil, non-Surge Foil, so not as valued as those variants. But we also got a Cloud Midgar Mercenary in Japanese Surge Foil. This one I did buy as a single. I bought this one at Game Storia. We got the Jill insert foil, Vanille insert foil. I have so many Vanilles and variants here. Raban search foil, Celeste, Rune Knight, Prompto, Arden. So a couple of the major like cards here. You'll see we have a couple of duplicates like the Ishtolas, Knight's Blessed. A lot of the duplicates were from these collector booster boxes.
Some of these like off the top.
My phone falls off the desk there.
The
But like I said, my plan with a lot of the duplicates that I pulled is to trade them in locally or talk to friends and kind of use them as trade value to get other cards that I do need for the collection. Maybe I'll consider like selling the ultimate bulks and stuff like that if I can't move them. But it's not necessarily about like, you know, while it's fun to like do the values and understand like the profits on some of these pools and pack rips. At the same time, I'm probably just going to use the money to cycle back into the hobby. But you can see here a couple of the other big pools. We pulled a couple of their Terras. We pulled a couple of Yunas. So I think I got 2, if not 3 of these. And then a couple of the other cooler foils and showcases and stuff like that. Notably, Torgul's Clive's Companion. This is a really cool single that I picked up at Dice Dojo. I believe this was like a MagicCon exclusive or some sort of like special set in Vegas MagicCon or something like that. So yeah, Eris Gainsborough, other Surge foil single I picked up at Brooklyn Wasteland Games. And then a couple other pulls that we got from the packs that we opened. And then it kind of gets into some of the cooler Japanese cards that we pulled. As well as Lord of the Rings, because I was picking up some Lord of the Rings cards while I was out there as well. And anytime I saw singles for Lord of the Rings, which was not as often, try to pick those up as well. So you'll see a lot of the stuff here. Notably, you'll see the One Ring. This was pulled. So this was pulled in my set booster box. I got like a God booster box where I got the One Ring, Nazgul's, Orc Bowmaster, like a lot of cool stuff in that booster box. So that was a really successful pull. And then we also ended up picking up Sauron, the Dark Lord, this variant of it, as a single. So yeah, pretty cool. Couple other random cards here. I think I was just putting like random stuff that I was willing to like trade in and stuff like that because I had multiples of. So just to kind of separate them here. Also this cool card single for Assassin's Creed that I picked up that I will be keeping. So yeah, a lot of the cooler cards are in here. Obviously there's still a lot of bulk and extras and stuff like that I still need to sort through in these boxes. Outside of that, obviously we just have a ton of like additional bulk and all that I still need to sort through. My main goal, and this is probably gonna have to happen like through the week, if not next weekend, is gonna have to be like taking all of these cards, sorting through them, scanning them in my app so I know what I have, because I made this mistake when it came to like retro video games when I was collecting for sets and stuff. It's much harder with cards because it's exponentially just way more quantity of things. I need to know what I have and what I don't. That way I'm not just randomly buying things that singles that I think I have that I don't have. And that was a big problem because I was gone for so long. I was like getting cards and buying a bunch of like, different singles, and then I would realize that I either had that or what have you, or wasn't sure what I had back home. The other thing is when I got home, I had like 6-7 packages waiting for me because of like Whatnot auctions. So I've been buying singles on Whatnot as well, and I just had like a ton of packs and stuff like this from stores when I got home. So I had to open all of those and realize that a lot of the singles I bought like right before leaving for the trip, I ended up getting on the trip. So yeah, there are just a lot of extras and stuff I need to sort through. That way I can see what's all the spares that I can like use for trade or giveaways or something like that. But yeah, there's just a ton of cards, ton of cardboard. If you're familiar with this hobby, you know what I'm talking about. It just piles up. So I got to be more strategic as I go forward here. Outside of that, I got like a lot of miscellaneous accessories in my time. I got like, you know, top loaders, kind of experimented with a lot of different protector sleeves and stuff like that. Like I got the sleeves that are like meant for MTG size cards, so that's like perfect fitting. Picked up a couple different Dragon Shield sleeving because I actually want to like sleeve some decks and kind of get into like the whole Commander series and stuff like that, and learn to like build out my own deck in the future as I slowly, you know, get into the playing side of things. Like I mentioned, the playmat. I ended up getting this like Final Fantasy. Let me grab it.
Yeah, Kefka. Right?
Storage box or like card case, whatever you want to call it. Super sick. It like folds flat, and then you just kind of bend it into shape, and it has this little like elastic rubber band here almost that you use to just kind of hold it secure. I have a lot of bulk in here right now. These are literally all the singles I unboxed from my whatnot packages I was talking about. All of this wasn't waiting for me when I got in the mail, so I still need to sort through it. But this is a super sick art. It's the same art that's on the gift bundle, so you have Bahamut and Ifrit, if I'm not mistaken, on the cover here. And yeah, super sick little case here. So I got this so that I could store a bunch of bulk stuff here at the studio. And then I just want to kind of wrap this all with some of like my favorite overall experiences going through this. I think a couple of standouts. Obviously, the first collector's booster I opened. I have footage and maybe I'll cut it in. I was thinking like I'd make it its own standalone video and let editor me figure out what I end up deciding to do. Okay. Let's see. Hero, sorcerers, memories. Oh, I forget what this card is called, but it's like something memories. Nibelheim or Memories of Nibelheim Through the Ages. I wanted this card so bad, and I an American foil, so I bought that single a couple back. Oh, there we go. VV, we got a VV hit. Extended art. These are the games we play. Okay, Hero. Sephiroth in a Surge foil. There we go. This is still sick though. This is Jill Surge foil, which means Shiva's dominant is on the other side of this. Yeah, but I don't think I have this in Surge foil, so very nice. Through the Ages card. Damn, I just bought this yesterday for like $90. I kid you not. But the first collector's booster I opened, which was the Japanese collector booster box that I got from Odyssey Comics. This was just so fun to open. I opened this in my hotel room. Like I didn't have a ton of space, right? I was in this hotel room near Central Park, and I wanted to just kind of open it up and see what I could get. But it's that experience of like cracking open a pack and boxes and something of like this nature was just a lot of fun. I told myself I was going to keep the box. I ended up keeping all the boxes just as like a display thing, but you can see I did my best to keep some of the packs even in pristine condition. When I got into TCG, like Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon and stuff like that, not so Magic, but more so with the other TCG stuff, I was living in Japan, born and raised in Japan, spent a lot of my time out there. So Japanese cards for me are more nostalgic, and nowadays, especially with like the alternate art and how they do some of these in Japan, this was just a really cool experience to see some of these cards in Japanese and see like the ones that had like alternate art, and get some pretty cool pulls. And like I said, this box actually overall was a pretty decent box, and if I left at this, I'd be in the positive. But we ended up picking up all those other collector booster boxes as you do. This Lord of the Rings booster set box was a ton of fun as well. Another one I opened in the same hotel room, and I just got a lot of the cool hits in this. I'm a big fan of Lord of the Rings, and we got a lot of cool hits across this booster box, from the One Ring to the Orcish Bowmaster, and a couple of other like variants of cards that I've been wanting. This is another set the completionist in me is going to want to complete. I'm not going to lie. Like I already know which path this is going to kind of take me down. So excited to open another booster box for this, and kind of collect all the art cards and stuff like that. But this was a pretty great box in terms of just bang for buck that I got out for it. So yeah, that was a really fun rip and pull. And then really, honestly, it was just opening some of these boxes and ripping some of these collector boosters. I think, obviously, a part of the tension and the dopamine hit is, like, yes, there's some level of the value behind it, knowing what you paid for it versus what you're pulling. Like, that's a little bit of the gambling aspect of it. But it was a lot of fun to open some of this stuff. And for me, it was also, like, the hunt and chase for, like, some of the things I knew I wanted for the collection. And I attribute it to a little bit of like when I was doing the Nintendo 64 complete NA set for Nintendo 64, there's a level of like I could probably just buy a collection and get a majority of these games, if not the entire set. Like I can go on eBay right now and there's probably sellers who have the entire set, and if you're willing to pay like 10 plus grand, you can just get the whole entire set. that could have just been something I did to just knock it out. But the whole fun of that aspect and the whole fun of that chase and collection was that I was piecing it together over time. I did it in a very fast pace of within a year plus, but I was able to meet a lot of people, form connections in the local community, meet shop owners, and source games from different people and different opportunities. Find it in the wild, find it at trade shows, find it on like Facebook Marketplace. Like those sort of deals and stuff like that are what make it so fun. And I attribute it to kind of the same here. If you have the money, you can go out and buy a lot of these crazy, heavy cards, and there's no argument against that. And I'm doing that where I can, when it comes to singles. But there's also this kind of aspect of it's fun to pull it and say that you got to pull it and you found it in a pack. But I also understand you weigh that across just like what these packs cost, because they also just forbid a lot of people from like being able to get in and get the opportunity to rip stuff like this. So I 100% get that as well. Like it's like a love-hate relationship with the market and how these stuff work. But again, I did have a lot of fun, me personally, ripping and pulling some of these packs. All in all, ladies and gentlemen, this hobby is yet another rabbit hole of things to go down, and I am both equally excited to continue collecting for it as well as playing and getting more into the scene again, and what's in store, because there's a lot of crazy sets to come. But I hope you enjoyed this for the TCG fans out there. I know this is a crazy amount of stuff here, but I hope to provide some more in-depth videos on some of these unboxings, pack rips, and stuff, and I'm going to clean up the area because I have a lot more videos to film here. So if you're interested in all that, stay tuned. I'll catch you in the next one, gamers.